Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredibly fascinating concept from the piece, Cognitive Agility Through Subject Rotation. We're going to tackle exactly why we so often hit those massive mental brick walls and how a really clever strategy called subject swapping can actually keep your mind incredibly sharp all day long. Let's get right into it. So, tell me if this sounds familiar. Do you ever feel your brain just completely melt by 2 p.m.? You know the feeling. You start the day tackling this massive, intimidating project, right? Pushing as hard as you absolutely can. But man, by the afternoon, the words are just blurring together, and even making simple decisions feels literally impossible. We all know that heavy mental fatigue. It's the worst. Well, the reason for that exhaustion is actually pretty straightforward. The mental grind of forcing focus eventually diminishes your returns. You see, culturally, we've totally bought into this idea that success requires relentlessly pushing through a single difficult task for hours on end. But here's the thing, your brain isn't a machine built to run at maximum output indefinitely. It just doesn't work that way. Forcing focus for too long causes your retention to completely drop off, and mistakes just start multiplying like crazy. Section 1. What is subject swapping? Okay, let's dive into this. Subject swapping is defined as the practice of deliberately alternating between hard and light subjects to maintain mental freshness. Now, the absolute keyword to focus on here is alternating, right? This is not multitasking, and it's definitely not just abandoning your work to mindlessly scroll through your phone for 20 minutes. Instead, it's a highly intentional practice. You're actively shifting gears, moving your focus from a really heavy cognitive load to a much lighter one before deliberately swinging back. Now, what's really interesting here is the contrast. On one hand, you have hard subjects. These require dense, heavy cognitive lifting. We're talking about things like complex problem solving, deep analytical reading, or learning a brand new, highly technical skill. On the other hand, light subjects are your breezy, lower friction tasks. That might be just organizing your notes, reading up on a familiar topic, or doing a simple administrative review. Honestly, think of this entirely like cross-training for an athlete. A pro weightlifter doesn't do max effort deadlifts every single day, right? They mix in light recovery days to keep moving without overtaxing their whole system. Well, your brain requires that exact same cross-training approach to stay healthy and productive. Section 2. Building your cognitive agility. Let's look at the underlying mechanics. Cognitive agility is essentially the mental flexibility and sustained sharpness achieved through the rotation of different subjects. When we actively rotate subjects, we aren't merely taking a break. Rather, we are strategically intervening in our neurological fatigue cycle. Shifting from a hard subject to a light one allows heavily taxed neural networks to enter a critical state of active recovery. At the exact same time, we stimulate alternative cognitive pathways. This underlying neurological mechanism ensures that instead of depleting our mental reserves, we are actively cultivating a highly resilient, agile mental state. And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference. When we rely on continuous heavy focus, the inevitable result is mental fatigue. The system just breaks down. But by alternating subjects, the result is that the mind is kept fresh. It's like the continuous grind is just a linear path straight to exhaustion, whereas the cognitive agility approach acts as a cyclical engine. It's constantly replenishing your mental clarity as you go. Sometimes, you really just need to give your brain a breather. When you switch over to a light subject, it should feel super easy and relaxed. You aren't forcing anything at all. You're just kind of flowing through a task with very little friction. Maybe you're color coding a spreadsheet, catching up on a fun little article, or just tidying up your desk. That light, airy feeling, that is exactly what a recovery break is supposed to feel like. Just a nice, big exhale for your mind. Section 3. Mastering the subject swap. So how do we actually do this? Let's move to the practical application and see how this builds into a daily routine. Step 1. Identify your hard subject. Look at your to-do list and pinpoint the monster. That one task that requires your absolute maximum brain power. Step 2. Select a contrasting light subject. Find an easy, low-stakes win that you can pivot to, something that uses a completely different part of your brain. And finally, Step 3. Actively alternate between them. Set a timer, work on that hard subject until you feel that initial wave of friction, and then consciously pivot right to the light subject to recover before jumping back in. So the crucial point is this: alternating between hard and light subjects keeps the mind fresh. It's such an elegant, simple distillation of the whole strategy. You really don't have to be a victim of that 2 p.m. mental fatigue anymore. If you start treating your attention like a muscle, one that absolutely needs both heavy lifting and active recovery, you can maintain your productivity from 9 to 5 without ever hitting that awful afternoon crash. So I'll leave you with this. What heavy subject are you grinding through right now, and what light subject could save you? Seriously, stop forcing yourself through a mental brick wall. Identify a low-friction task you can swap to today and just try implementing this routine. I guarantee you'll be amazed at how much more you can accomplish when your mind actually stays fresh. Go give your brain that cross-training workout, and I'll see you in the next explainer.